I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the Your Town television program. My guest, Justin Gordon, the new Canon Theater.
Yep.
So you've brought a new theater here. You're experimenting with new work, and you're also a Shakespearean.
Yep.
Actor, director, writer.
Well, I don't write Shakespeare. I leave that to them.
Well, yeah, the new Shakespeare.
Yeah, the new Shakespeare, yeah.
Let's start with the new canon.
Yeah.
You know, why and what and the mission.
I have a long history with the Monterey Peninsula in the area. I've been coming up here for over 20 years now. A lot of family and friends in the area, and I keep getting pulled back in. And around 2019, I was talking with a local woman named Justine Stock, who's an actress and producer from New York who now lives here. And we were talking about theater in the area, and you know, there's good theater, there's entertaining theater, but there wasn't anything happening that in terms of the type of productions that we were used to being in or seeing in major markets like, you know, LA, New York, San Francisco, whatnot, Chicago, where I have some history. And it's certainly not a full equity theater, or, you know, a full professional company. And so we were like, you know, we think there could be a need for that, like a small, progressive, professional theater company that, you know, I'm as you said, I'm a Shakespearean. I did my undergrad training at the Globe in London and have a long history performing in and directing and readapting Shakespeare's works. So I knew that in my desire to form a company, and I've been kicking around the idea for starting a theater company for years. I just didn't know where it was going to be. For a while, it might have been Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I spent a lot of time. I have family there. But, you know, it kept coming back here. And so I knew that Shakespeare would be a cornerstone of the company. But I also knew that I really had a desire to seek out and develop new plays, new writers who are making a name for themselves in the playwriting world, and bring their works to the peninsula as part of our programming. And so that's kind of where the new canon comes from, because you have the classical canon of Shakespeare plays and the established plays, but we're trying to build a new canon of work going forward. And so that's where the name for the company came from. And we just premiered our first new play. So there's two sections. There's the main company, where we do our Shakespeare and more established productions. But then we have the new Canon Theater Lab.
And you've been doing, before we move on, you've been doing Shakespeare in a bar. You've been doing, you've been reinventing and expanding how it's done a bit. So you're not really playing it straight all the time.
No, not exactly. And you know, and so a lot of research suggests that, you know, that back in 1595, 1601 and whatnot, when Shakespeare was at their peak, the productions that they had back then were bawdy, rowdy, boisterous, visceral, lightly rehearsed. It wasn't. We've put the grim hand of reverence on Shakespeare. Right now, Shakespeare is this, you know, the literary titan, but really it was just a writer actor trying to make a name for themselves in London, and the plays were riotous. And so when you take a Shakespeare play and you put it, say, in a brewery, you know, and you rehearse it only for a couple of weeks, and you pack everybody in the brewery and everybody's drinking and they're right there face to face with the actors, a new energy kind of takes over. And it kind of puts some of the vitality that I find missing a lot of the time in Shakespeare, because we tend to just worship it now. And I don't think theater is meant to be worshipped. I think theater is meant to provoke.
You're also unintimidating it as well.
Yeah.
You know, because I think people are either not interested or they're intimidated.
Or and that's part of it.
And you need to fight both those things.
Exactly, yeah. You know, and it's like you want people to feel welcome in the space, you know, and we did in the fall we did a production of Taming of the Shrew, a reinterpretation of Taming of the Shrew at Other Brother Brewery in Seaside. And literally people who just wanted to go have a beer were like, well, I guess there's a play happening at the same time, and they were like stoked at the end of it. They're like, we never thought that we would see Shakespeare ever in our lives. That's not who we are, but we came to the bar to have a drink and you were doing this play and we decided to stay. And they were thrilled that they did. So for me, that's what it's about. It's about making people feel welcome in spaces that they didn't traditionally feel that they were able to play in or be part of. So
the second half of the mission is new work.
Yeah.
We saw Finding Chase this weekend. Mm-hmm. It was a very lavish, professional, big production.
Yeah.
It wasn't a table reading.
Right.
So that was pretty grand, and it was fresh. Theater is vital. So, let's talk about how that came about, what you're going to do.
Yeah. So the other side of the company is the new Canon Theater lab, and that's the component where we do a call for selections for playwrights to submit plays to us, and we did our first call a little over a year ago, and my inbox started flooding, but Finding Chase actually came about from a man I know from LA, Corey Wright, the playwright, and he sent me an email and said, I have this play that I think you might find interesting. And I was like, cool. And because I had a personal connection, I put it to the top of the pile, right? Mm-hmm. And I read it, and I immediately knew that there was something special there. A lot of, the characters, the action, the intention jumped off the page, and the writing was very poetic and very it just sung off the page. And thematically, on the surface, the play, it's a serious subject matter. A man takes his own life, and it's about his partner and his father reconciling their differences of opinions based on this man's death. So it sounds grim, but there was so much light and so much humor and so much joy in the piece that it was unique for us. And so we actually started that process a year ago. We had Corey is also a fantastic performer, and he was actually working for Pacific Repertory Theater doing Mary Poppins for them at the same time that he submitted this play. So we were able to have Corey come over to my managing director's house, Justine Stock, and we did an informal reading of the play and heard it out loud and talked about it, gave some feedback, and so we started that process a year ago, locking in this work. And so we've had all of that time. You say the production was lavish. I think it came off quite well.
Yeah.
It had high production value, and we're a professional company, so even when we're performing in a bar, we want it to feel elevated. But we knew that this play required a traditional theater, and all of the things that come along with that. And we rented the theater at Carmel High School. It's a fantastic space. Hired a scenic designer that I've worked with for a long time to work on the set with the director.
The set was really smart.
It was cool.
Yeah.
So we just we were able to put together a really good team to help breathe life into this play. And play development's hard. There were some differences of opinion during the process about certain aspects of the writing and whatnot. But the end product I was very proud of, and I think we were able to put something special out in the community. And it also brought people into the theater who, again, don't normally feel like they have a place in the theater. The play was about, a queer black couple, and that's not a lot of representation in this area, particularly for people of color at the theater, if I'm going to be frank. Not a lot, I don't see a lot of August Wilson or Lorraine Hansberry or any traditional black playwrights being produced in this area.
You don't see a lot of plays produced, period.
Yeah, it's true. But that being said, we formed a relationship with the local chapter of the NAACP. Word got out, and suddenly the black community was coming to the theater, and they were having a great time, and they were seeing themselves represented on stage. And for me, that's a win, because it's expanding people's perceptions of what the theater is.
Now, what's interesting to me is a play's not at this level when you're working on a new play. It's not a done deal.
No.
Plays take a long. That's why they go out of town.
Yeah.
A play gets shaped and shaped and shaped and shaped before it's it gets to New York, and that process is very interesting. You don't see the first cut of the movie.
Right. No. Yeah.
So it's very alive to see stuff in workshop. I don't know if the audience quite understands that, or how fascinating you think that process is, because you've got to see something that's it's almost there, but something's wrong.
Yeah.
You don't know if the first act's wrong. You don't know if the second act's. The magic of it.
I'm also a instructor of acting at the University of Texas Austin, and so anytime I tell actors in training, or if I'm directing a play and I'm working with professional actors, I like to identify what's working and what's missing. right? What's happening in this scene that's working, what's missing, and what do we need to find to implement. Same thing with play development. You identify early on what's working in the piece and what's missing in the piece, what needs to be altered or expanded upon or cut or what. So this was just the first production of this play.
Yeah.
This play is going to have a life at other theaters before it gets published. Some pretty major theaters have shown interest in the script, and so I'm excited for Corey.
But this part of it's really the metamorphosis project part of it is really exciting.
It is, and it's
because everybody's still creating.
Yeah,
it's not a done deal.
Yeah, and it won't be a done deal the next production until this play is published. It's going to be revised, and it's going to shift, and it's going to metamorphose. Or I can't speak today. It's going to have a metamorphosis into into something different, but still at its core the same beautiful piece that we picked in the beginning. And I'm excited to see the development as other theaters pick it up before it's published. And I know that's going to happen. Like I said, like the Geffen has the script right now, and they're showing interest in it. And if the Geffen programs it, I know it will have a new life coming out of that, and it'll change and adjust and shift. And again, I want the moon for this writer director. I think he's extremely talented, and I think that he will find, and new audiences will find different aspects of this piece as it continues to evolve.
I'm always interested in what Denver did developing new plays, what Louisville did developing plays.
Oh yeah, the Humana Festival. Yeah.
How does Monterey become a place for playwrights and theater? Because it can be.
Should be.
It's a relatively easy community. There are theaters, and it feels like a good place for this kind of development.
It does, and that's why we're doing it. I mean, you ask the question, how does it happen? Well, somebody has to do it, and so we are taking the plunge in that. And that's not to say that other theaters won't. I hope what happens is that other theaters in the area see that we're doing this, and that it's proving to be successful and interesting and rewarding, not just artistically, but in terms of building a new audience base and whatnot. And I hope that more theaters start programming new works. But, the simplest answer to that question is we just have to do it. And I think this area is supportive of that. I mean, it's no secret that the peninsula, particularly, the Carmel area, has a long arts history. And there's still a little bit of that bohemian spirit here. And there's still a little bit of that drive to create. And we're known for visual art. We're known for music. Yeah. We're not known for the theater. We should be. We should be known for, a well-rounded sphere of artistic achievement, and I know that this area can support it. But I think new works is the way into that. I see,
because movies took over, but now it's when everything's $100 million movie.
Yeah.
It's so broad.
Yeah.
You don't have the intimacy, or to go narrow like theater can go.
Yeah. So I'm also a member of SAG-AFTRA, and obviously we're on strike right now for film and TV production. And one of the things that we're striking against is the use of AI and digital likenesses and whatnot. And I think as interesting as that technology can be, and as useful as that technology can be, and to a certain degree, it still creates a gulf between the audience and the product, because that uncanny valley cannot be fixed. You cannot fix this. This cannot be like live in the flesh, visceral. Even when it's captured on film, can't be taken away. That experience can't be taken away. No matter how good the technology gets, it's always going to feel distant and disconnected. I saw the new Indiana Jones movie, and the first 20 minutes is a de-aged Harrison Ford in his 40s, and the technology looks amazing, but it's still weird.
But you see it twice and you're bored.
Exactly.
That's the thing about technology. Boy, the first time it's cool.
It's cool, but then
when you go to the trailers and you see 30 movies and it's all the same, it's the same package, graphics package, it gets boring very quickly. Where this is human.
I think we're entering a new era in audiences coming back to the theater, because I think there's going to come a point where we're going to miss that human connection, and we're going to miss that need to experience a story happening in real time with living and breathing actors right in front of you, as the film and TV industry is trying to sort itself out.
So what's next?
What's next for us? Well, I mean, we just closed Finding Chase last weekend, and we're in the middle of programming our third season. This is our second season. We just wrapped up. So we're doing play selections right now, and we're planning some little pop-ups in the community in the fall. Like I'm sure a Shakespeare in a bar will pop up somewhere between now and December, and some other. We're trying to identify little micro events we can put on. There's a one-woman show from a local artist who I can't talk about too much yet because it's not official, but it's a beautiful one-woman show that we're probably going to produce, and it's easy because it's just one person and it's an intimate setting. So, but little things like that. So we're planning our full season for next year as we're implementing these little pop-ups and also classes. We're going to start teaching classes in the area as well. So that's what's next.
Well, it's really exciting.
Thank you.
And it's fun to be in the theater. We have venues here,
mm-hmm.
and I'm tired of the recycling.
Yeah.
You can. I think people want to see the new. They have to hear about it. They have to have the they have to build excitement, and you have to build a theater community, which is it's all here. I think people want this.
I think so, and I think I'm of the opinion that you also train your audiences, right? If you train your audiences to expect a certain thing, then that becomes comfortable and familiar, and we like the comfortable and familiar. Don't get me wrong, give me a cheeseburger any day of the week, but sometimes I want to go to the restaurant that's doing new cutting edge cuisine and try what they're doing, but the cheeseburger is still comforting, and so there's a room for both, right? You can have the familiar and the repetitive, but we have to be seeking out the new.
And theater is still an affordable thing to make, as opposed to a movie.
Yes.
Relatively.
You're speaking to a producer of a nonprofit theater company. And
but still, it's
comparatively dollars.
It's comparatively doable. So you can get really. You can still produce good art.
You can. It is.
And good writing.
It's same thing with the WJ who's on strike. I think people forget these stories don't just come out of thin air.
Yeah.
They come out of the creative impulses and artistry of a lot of people. And it is. I mean, without good writing, I could do a play on this deck if I had a good script and good actors, and that's all I needed.
And that is all you need, because people need less than they think.
They do.
They need good writing.
Yeah.
There's no substitute. Bad writing, all the lavish in the world, is not going to fix it.
It's true.
So before we go, tell me how people find you.
Oh, yeah.
And how do they help?
Yeah. Yes. I like that question. So you can find us online at newcanontheater.org. It's new, and then Canon, CANON, theater, RE.org. And you can help. Donations are always gratefully accepted. They're all tax deductible. While theater is less expensive on paper than film and TV productions, there's still a high cost. And because we are a professional company, we pay everybody. We pay our artists, our scenic artists, we pay our actors, we pay all of our staff. If we are a professional, we are creating jobs. So find us online, newcanontheater.org. Subscribe to our mailing list. You'll see that on the website. And come to the theater. That's the best way to support. Come to the theater.
You're watching Your Town. Mark Baer, Justin Gordon. We're done.
Thank you.